Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. With preseason week 1 out of the way, I figured now would be a good time to update my power rankings as the NFL season draws ever closer. So we are going to start, of course, with number 32, and this has not changed for me since the last video. Number 32, I think, is the Saints. I still think this roster is easily the worst in the NFL. Tyler Shuck does not inspire confidence, in my opinion, and Spencer Rattler does very little to get ahead of that. So I think everyone is pretty much accepting that the Saints are in a tank year, so the Saints are still number 32 for me, and the Cleveland Browns are also still number 31. I think the Browns do have a better roster than the Saints, but with the uncertainty at quarterback, I just can't put them very high on this list right now. There is the possibility that if a Joe Flacco or Shurdur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or whoever plays at an average level, that maybe they could be somewhere in the middle. Maybe like 15, 16, something like that. But for the time being, I don't have an abundance of faith in the Cleveland Browns. Moving forward to number 29, I am going to insert the Indianapolis Colts, which is down a couple spots from where I had them last time. Again, this is just because of who their quarterback options are. I'm not really convinced that Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones is going to elevate this roster the way that I think it needs to for the Colts to be competitive. I do think there are a lot of young players on the Colts that are worth keeping if they do decide to blow it up and start a more proper rebuild. You've got guys like Josh Downs and Adonai Mitchell, and maybe that's it, but there are definitely some bits and pieces there that are interesting and you could look to for that purpose. At number 28, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know a lot of people are going to say this is heresy, right? A lot of people are going to disagree with this opinion, but I just can't get behind a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf as your number one receiver. Like, it just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I know the defense, for the most part, has been good the last couple years, but it's getting old, man. I don't know. I don't see it with the Steelers, and that's why they're here on my list. At number, what is this? 28? 27. 27 is the Miami Dolphins again. This is just a roster that I think needs to have some serious retooling done to it. The offensive line has a lot of question marks. The defense is getting older. The secondary might be the worst in the NFL. I don't know. I don't see it with the Dolphins this year, so that's why they're there. I do like Mike McDaniel as a coach, but I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that locker room intact. Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. If it were me, if I were Chris Greer, I would have traded Tyreek Hill at the start of the offseason. Every day that passes that Tyreek Hill doesn't get traded, I think, is a mistake. And I think that's something that they really do need to go and address and move on from Tyreek Hill for sure. Number 26 is the New York Football Jets. I say this like every time Justin Fields comes up, but Justin Fields is just not an NFL quarterback. It's also kind of like the Colts, where it's like there are plenty of young players on this team that you could build around and get something. I know they just extended Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, but there's also guys like Jermaine Johnson and I forget the name of their defensive tackle. Not the one, but the second one that's younger than the first one. I forget his name, but he's pretty good. So there are pieces on the Jets. There's kind of a vision there, but I think they need a year to really figure their stuff out. Number 25 is the New York Football Giants. Again, it's very similar to the Jets, where it's like there are young players here, there are pieces to build around, but until the quarterback situation is finalized and we know what we have there, I don't know how good they're really going to be. I think their ceiling is pretty capped. I personally like Jackson Dart. I think he could be like a Derek Carr type, where it's like he's good enough to win games with the right roster. I don't know that he's really the kind of player that elevates a roster, but you can definitely win games with him if you do it right. So there is potential there, but I need some time to really get a solid evaluation, this is just one of those ones where it's like we have to wait and see. Number 24 is the Dallas Cowboys. Offensively, I think they're going to be good this year. Defensively, I have some doubts. And then there's also the whole Micah Parsons thing. And if they lose Micah Parsons, right, if Micah Parsons is committed to holding out, which doesn't really happen as much in the NFL anymore, they've kind of cut down on that quite a lot. So I don't know if a holdout is necessarily what we're going to see. But if they do end up losing Micah Parsons for whatever reason, this defense is completely toast. So there's a lot of uncertainty with the Cowboys that makes me not really want to believe in them all too much. So that's why they are here. Number 23 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Let me see if I have these numbers right. 32, 31, 29. Or no, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. Okay, there we go. Las Vegas Raiders at 24. I mean, this is just, what can you really say about the Raiders? They have Ashton Genty, they have Brock Bowers. That's cool, that's awesome. Their receivers are terrible. Their number one receiver is Jacoby Myers? No, I'm not. No, we're not doing this. We're not. Jacoby Myers is a nothing burger. This is not a team that I think is going to wow people. It's just, I don't know what's going on there. They need a receiver really badly, and I don't think they're going to get one. I mean, yes, again, they have Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is incredible. Brock Bowers is not enough, okay? So, it's, I think we're a year away from seeing the Raiders really be a problem, but maybe that's just me. At number 23, I am putting the Tennessee Titans. Let me just say, Cam Ward looked good, okay? Cam Ward actually looked pretty solid in their first preseason game, and it is weird. It is very weird that they don't talk about Cam Ward at all. Like, I know I'm kind of branded as a Cam Ward hater because, like, I don't think Cam Ward is special by any means, but he's maybe the best quarterback in the class. Depending on how Jackson Dart develops, but this guy was the first overall pick, and you would not know it. You would not have any clue if you just turned on the NFL today. They don't talk about Cam Ward at all, and that is a little weird. I will admit, it's strange that they're acting this way about Cam Ward. So, I don't know. I don't think the Titans have the roster to get very far, even if Cam Ward lives up to his expectations as a first-round pick. They just don't have a lot in Tennessee. It's a roster that's pretty barren. So but I will be the first to admit Cam Ward definitely did look good in that preseason game. And yes, it's preseason. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but there are takeaways to get out of preseason for sure. And my takeaway is Cam Ward's probably going to be fine, right? I don't think there's a lot to worry about that. If you're Tennessee, you at least have a starting quarterback again. So that's more than nothing. Let's see here. We are at 25, 24, 23, 22. This is where it gets kind of weird. Like between 16 and 22, it's kind of hard. Number 22, I think I'm going to go with my gut and say the Seattle Seahawks. Listen, Sam Darnold is just not very good in muddy pockets, when he's under pressure, when there's guys in his face. Sam Darnold's kind of terrible. And the Seahawks offensive line is not nearly as good as the Vikings offensive line was last year. So I think there is some serious potential for the worst case scenario. It doesn't feel like things are going to go well there. It's frightening for sure. JSN, I think, is going to have a very good year regardless. That Tory Holton, that Holton kid that they drafted, I think is really picking up steam, and he could be interesting. They also drafted a tight end. I think, was it Elijah Arroyo that they drafted in Seattle? I think it was Elijah Arroyo. And he as well could be an interesting addition to the Seahawks because they traded away Drew Lock, but we'll have to see. It's like, I think a lot of the teams in this sort of second tier here, there's just so many unknowns where it's like, they've got a lot of stuff to sort out before I'm really convinced of anything from them. Number 20, I'm going with the New England Patriots. This is a team that I think is going to rise up these rankings for me over the course of the year. But as it stands right now, I think defensively they need some help. Offensively, especially on the offensive line, there's a lot of question marks. But I have no questions about Drake May. I think Drake May is the best quarterback out of his class. I think he'll do just fine. I think he's going to be a great player. But for the time being, there's just a lot to be desired about this roster. There's a lot of question marks with what they're going to look like going forward. So I think for now, putting the Patriots here is fine. At number 20, the Arizona Cardinals. It's like I said in the last video, Kyler Murray's just never taking that next step. Kyler Murray is who he is at this point. I think their defense is going to improve. They added a lot of talent there because the defense was awful last year. So maybe that helps a little bit. But again, Kyler Murray, we know what he is at this point. I think this is probably his final year as a Cardinal. And, where does he go after that? I'm going to make a bold shot here. I'm going to say that Kyler Murray in 2026 is a Los Angeles Ram. And we'll talk about the Rams more in a little bit when we get to them. But I think there is some serious potential that Kyler Murray ends up in Los Angeles before his career is over. Number 19 is the Carolina Panthers. I think Bryce Young has improved a lot, honestly. I still have some questions about their receivers. Like, I'm not the biggest believer in Xavier Legette, or Legette, is how you pronounce it, actually. Adam Thielen is in his 30s, in his mid-30s, actually. He's really getting up there. And, I'm not super sold on Chuba Hubbard either, but I think Bryce Young is going to figure this thing out and be a pretty solid NFL quarterback going forward. So I don't think the Panthers are going to be like super hard bottom feeders this year, which is really interesting because the Panthers have been at the bottom for a very long time. But it's, any way you slice it, they're moving up in the world, so good for them. But if it weren't for the Saints, they'd still be the bottom of the NFC South, so that's still kind of sad, but it is what it is. Number 18 is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. Again, this is just one where it's like the roster is kind of middling, it's kind of average. Bijan Robinson, sorry, is how it's actually pronounced. Bijan Robinson is incredible, obviously. Very, very good player. The offensive line is insane. Kyle Pitts is probably never going to figure it out. I don't know what Michael Penix is going to look like. But, I mean, if he plays to the level that Kirk Cousins did last year, or even better, I think they're going to be fine. Defensively, they finally drafted pass rushers. So, they're entering the modern age. But they are rookie pass rushers, so I don't want to get my hopes up too high that they will finally have a competitive team. But we'll have to wait and see with that one. Number 17, right? 17? 2019-18, 17. 17's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, I am a big believer in Liam Cohen. I really liked him during the coaching cycle. Second only to Ben Johnson, in my opinion. And, maybe I'll get absolutely exposed in a couple months for that. But I really do think Liam Cohen is a great coach. And I think he's going to get a lot out of Trevor Lawrence, a lot more than we've seen in previous years. Travis Hunter, incredible. Brian Thomas Jr., incredible. The running backs are kind of, the offensive line is, it's, they're bits and pieces to not like, but I think this is a roster that Liam Cohen will get the most out of, and that is going to go a long way. Number 16, I am going to place the Green Bay Packers. I don't have much more to say than I did in the last video, where I think the Packers are easily the worst roster in the NFC North, and that's just going to completely cap their ceiling as far as how far they can go in the season, because it's, the rest of the division is just better than you, and that's going to make it really hard for you to do what you want to do and get what you want out of it. It is just what it is. The roster construction is just not as good as like the Lions or the Vikings, so that's why they're here. I mean, they could be better, right? Like, I think Matt LaFleur is a top 5 coach in the league pretty easily. It's just I don't know that Jordan Love is the guy that you want him to be. It's like there's a lot there that's just kind of like, I don't know if this is the right way to go. They're also in contention with the Dolphins for the worst secondary in the NFL. It's really bad. Anyway, moving on to number 15, I am going to place, and this might come as a shock, the Washington Commanders. I know I had them in the top 5 in the last video, but when I think about it, there are some question marks. Terry McLaurin is still asking for a new contract, and if he's gone, your number one receiver becomes an old, injury-riddled Deebo Samuel, and I don't believe in that too much. Your number one running back is Brian Robinson, which is just kind of okay. Of course, Jaden Daniels does elevate the ceiling of this roster quite a bit, but at the same time, I don't know if this is the roster that it needs to be. There are defensive question marks. There's offensive question marks. The offensive line, I think, should be a bit better, but we'll see. So yeah, the Washington Commanders have fallen quite a ways down my power rankings. Number 14, the San Francisco 49ers. Again, this is still just an instance where it's like, yes, their schedule is super easy, but they have injuries already to their receiver room. I don't think Ricky Pearsall is going to be the kind of guy you want to be a number one wide receiver. I think maybe he could be a solid number 2. Brandon Ayuk, I don't remember, did they put him on the PUP list, or is it just maybe he's questionable for week 1 kind of thing? I can't quite remember, but Brandon Ayuk is dealing with some stuff. Trent Williams is 38 years old. I don't know. A lot could go wrong for this 49ers team. And I don't want to speculate too much about like injuries or something, but their entire running back room behind Christian McCaffrey is already hurt, and if he goes down, that's a yikes. That, like, the San Francisco 49ers, I think honestly just need like a hard reset and build kind of like what the Vikings did when they got rid of Kirk Cousins, where, quote unquote competitive rebuild or whatever, where it's like you just got to shed some of these old contracts and bring in guys, just bet on traits, bet on upside, that kind of thing. But who knows? The 49ers might rise up this list. Number 15, 14, 13. Number 13, the LA Rams. The LA Rams were in my top 3 in the last video, and I still think they could be really, really good this year. The problem is Matthew Stafford is dealing with was it a dislocated disc in his back or a herniated disc in his back? Something to do with a disc in his back. And that is very frightening. That is not the kind of news that you want to hear from your franchise quarterback. They say he'll be ready week 1. I have some doubts. I'm not a medical expert by any means, but what I understand in my limited knowledge about back injuries is that they're not good, especially in your late 30s. So, I still think this is a really good roster. I like a lot of the moves they made this offseason, shedding Cooper Kupp, bringing in Devontae Adams. There's a lot that I like about this team. But if Matt Stafford misses time for any reason, or the injury holds him back for any reason, it's over. It is over. You know what I mean? Like, Matt Stafford is so important to this roster. If he's done, so is your season. So, for now, I still want to bet on their potential. I still want to believe in their ability to be a really good team this year, but I am reserving myself because of the Matt Stafford injury. Number 12, the Cincinnati Bengals. And you just need a mediocre defense for this team to be a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. I don't think they necessarily have that, especially if Trey Hendrickson is not figured out here soon. They got to figure out something with Trey Hendrickson. I couldn't think of his name for a second. I don't know what happened there, but they really got to figure something out. Just sign the guy, get his contract over with. Joe Burrow wants to make it back to the Super Bowl before he dies, so, just figure it out, guys. I don't know why it needs to be this difficult, but here we are. I don't know why it's so difficult for the Cincinnati ownership to just pay their players, but it is, and we have to witness it every year. But offensively, I think the Bengals will be the best team in the league. Chase Brown doesn't super inspire me or anything, but he's better than some for sure. The offensive line could maybe use some improvement, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst. The defense, on the other hand, ooh baby, that's what are we doing? But I see if the defense is as bad as I think it's going to be, that just means they're going to throw the ball even more, and they're going to score 45 points a game. But, so will their opponent. So whoever gets the ball last in these Cincinnati Bengals games is probably the guy that's going to win. But Joe Burrow's still really good. Top 3 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. I'd probably put him at number 3. I used to say, physically, right, as a physical talent, not necessarily based on accolades or production or anything. I used to say as a physical talent, Joe Burrow was number 1. I think that's kind of cooled for me. I think I'd put him below Lamar Jackson for sure. I think Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback in the NFL, without a shadow of a doubt. And Josh Allen's maybe number 2. I think it's closer between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow for that 2 spot now. But we'll see. Number 11, I'm going to put the Houston Texans. I think their defense is going to be sick this year, dude. I think that defense is going to murder people out there. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson on the edges is insane. Derek Stingley, I forget that other guy's name. All of a sudden, their other corner that I think he was a rookie last year. I don't know. The other corner, I think, is still very young. But I think that secondary is going to be nuts. They have a lot of talent there. They did lose C.J. Johnson for the year to a knee injury, but I don't think that's a huge deal, honestly. I've never thought that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a difference maker to, the kind of degree where you would miss him much if he was hurt. I'm really just not a big believer in his game, but it is what it is. Houston, offensively, maybe there's some question marks because their wide receiver 2 got hurt, Tank Dell, but they did bring in Jaden Higgins, who I think is really, really good. They have Jalen Noel as well, who could also get some starting reps. It's certainly very interesting. Of course, Stephon Diggs is also gone, so there are changes for that offense for sure, but I'm not super worried about it. Number 10, I am placing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that defense is going to be very, very good. Offensively, I do think they will step back a little bit after losing Liam Cohen. But here's the truth, fellas. I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be nuts. I would not be shocked even in the slightest if Emeka Egbuka has more yards and touchdowns than Chris Godwin this year. I think Emeka Egbuka is a special, special talent. So Emeka Egbuka was a phenomenal pick. I think there's a lot to like about their defense. I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a career year this year. I think the Bucs are easily the best team in the South, and that does kind of carry their ranking a little bit because, I do factor in where I think they're going to finish in terms of playoff seeding because, record isn't the most important thing when I'm thinking about power rankings, but it does play a little bit of a role. So, division winners are probably going to be ranked a bit higher. You know what I mean? If it's a case like the AFC North, where I still think the Bengals are pretty good, but they're going to be moved down a little bit because I don't think they're winning the division. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. I don't know. Number 9. Am I counting this right? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Number 9, I'm going to put the Chicago Bears. It could be a very shocking ranking to a lot of people, but I truly do believe the Chicago Bears are going to be good this year. I think they're going to be a very competitive team. I think they're going to be a nuisance to a lot of these other competitors. A lot of people are kind of worried about Caleb Williams for this, that, and whatever other reason. I don't buy into that a whole lot. Yes, there has been some questionable tape coming out of practice, but I'm confident enough in Ben Johnson that it's not going to be a huge deal come game day. What concerns me more than Caleb Williams is their running back situation with DeAndre Swift. I don't think that's the guy that you want to be your lead running back, but two they have. What can you do about it now? There's a lot of guys to like on the Chicago Bears team. Colston Loveland, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, DJ Moore. There's a lot of stuff there that I think could make a really, really dynamic offensive team. Their defense is a little bit of a concern, like just a little bit. There's bits and pieces there where it's like, I need this to mesh better. I need this to come together and be more cohesive. And I think they probably should add another pass rusher at some point. But I really do believe in Ben Johnson. The ranking here is being carried almost exclusively by the Ben Johnson thing. So, as we get closer to the season, if I see more stuff that I don't like, they'll probably fall on the power rankings. But for the time being, this is where I have the Chicago Bears. So, number 8, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, unfortunately for the Chargers, Rashawn Slater is out for the year, and it's a pretty significant injury. Rashawn Slater tore his patellar tendon in his knee, and with the history of that injury, this is likely a career-altering injury. This is probably going to affect him for a very long time. There are definitely concerns, especially to the degree, which I don't think has come out yet. I don't think we know how severe exactly the injury was, but if it's more severe, his career might be over, and that's a really, really big shame, because Rashawn Slater was working to be one of the best left tackles in football. He was really off to a stellar start to his career, and that does affect how the Chargers are going to be able to play, because they're, they lose their star left tackle. There's definitely some stuff to worry about there, but Justin Herbert, second year in a Jim Harbaugh offense. They got Amarian Hampton, who I think is going to be very, very good. Lad McConkey really showed out last year. There are pieces to really like on this team. Defensively, it feels like the defense should be better than it is, or at least, better than it was last year, but a lot still needs to be figured out there. The Chargers, I think, are still a really, really good team, and should certainly have a pretty solid start. I think they're going to be good, is the thing. Number 10, 9, 8? Number 7, Detroit Lions. I think they are going to step back a little bit from last year. I don't think it's going to be huge, just because the roster is still ridiculously talented, even after completely restructuring their interior offensive line, losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. I don't think is as big of a deal as I once did. I think they're most likely going to be fine, at least especially defensively, just because Aiden Hutchinson is coming back, and Aiden Hutchinson is stupid good. Which is, I understand financially it would probably be a little bit difficult, but, they could have done it. They could have done it, and I think they should have done it. I think Myles Garrett should have forced his way onto the Lions under any means necessary, because I think that team would have won a Super Bowl uncontested. But, they didn't. I still think they need a second pass rusher that's a little bit more than what they have, but other than that, other than the interior O-line going to need time to mesh together, I still think this is like an 11 to 12 win team. And, I only have them lower than another team because I think they lose the head-to-head for the tiebreaker. So, Lions at 7. At number 6, the Kansas City Chiefs. You can never count out Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I am a little bit lower on their team overall. But, there's definitely some promising reports coming out of training camp. Not that those are super valuable to listen to all the time. But, the Chiefs, I think, are probably back. The one thing I will say is their running backs kind of concern me a lot. I am not sold by a room of Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. That just doesn't move me at all. I think that's terrible. And like among the top contenders, like among this top 10 tier, I think they easily have the worst running back. And especially among 1 through 5, I think it's really bad. So, they should figure out something there. Number 5, I am placing the Minnesota Vikings. This roster is just really, really good, man. Like, this is a stupid good roster. I think this is probably the last year Brian Flores is sitting around as a defensive coordinator. I think he's going to get his job back as a head coach somewhere. Even with his pending lawsuit with the NFL still not being resolved, I think Brian Flores is an incredible coach. I think he's learned a lot since leaving Miami, and I think he's going to ditch the Belichick method, which never works. So I think, this is just a really, really good roster. They don't need J.J. McCarthy to be a superstar. They don't. But, if J.J. McCarthy is just an average quarterback, I think they win 12 games. This is a really, really good roster. Obviously, Jordan Addison's also suspended for the first 3 games. I don't think that matters at all. I really don't. I don't think that makes any difference. It's 3 games. It's whatever. Who cares? That's how it is. Number 4, I am putting the Buffalo Bills. Again, this is just a roster that's stupid good. I mean, there are question marks for sure. Defensively, I think they're very good. They have a really underrated offensive line. When we talk about the top offensive lines in football, somehow the Bills never come up, but I think they really need to be in that conversation. It's a really good offensive line. James Cook is very good. Their receivers are probably the biggest question mark for me, because I'm not a believer personally in Keon Coleman. I don't think that was a very good pick. I don't like it much at all. But it's still a really solid roster. It's still Josh Allen. They're still going to lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs, as is written. Number 3, I have the Denver Broncos. Now, there was some concerning tape from Bo Nix in that preseason game. But again, preseason, I don't want to take the most stock in. And the Broncos are a lot like the Vikings, where it's they don't need Bo Nix to be a superstar to win. Their defense is stupid, man. Their defense is crazy. Probably the best secondary in the NFL, if I were to guess. Pat Surtain, the white guy, and Jahdae Barron. This is a nuts secondary. Their safeties, too, are also really good. They brought in Hufanga from the 49ers to play the 1 spot, and I don't remember the name of the other guy that was already there, but this secondary is nuts, dude. It's honestly crazy. And again, they don't need Bo Nix to be a superstar to win. They really don't. I like Marvin Mims a lot. I've always loved Courtland Sutton, even though if he hasn't lived up to the potential that I saw in him during the draft process. I thought he was going to be a superstar. Injuries have kind of derailed his career, I think. Number 2, Baltimore Ravens. Like I said earlier, Lamar Jackson, I think, is the best quarterback in the NFL. Derrick Henry still has the juice. The wide receivers in Baltimore are definitely a concern. Zay Flowers, I don't think, is a wide receiver 1. I think he's best used as a 2, but they really don't have anyone else. So he is the de facto number 1. So there is a little bit of concern there for me with their wide receivers, but not enough to really impact their rankings as much. The Baltimore Ravens, I think, are still really good. I think, they're my leading candidates to lose in the AFC Conference Finals. So that's why they're here. And number 1, of course, is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they have had an injury to Landon Dickerson that I don't think we know the extent of quite yet, but that is definitely something to monitor, because if Landon Dickerson misses extended time, that could definitely impact their run game, and that could definitely change some things for the Eagles. But until proven otherwise, until proven with definitive beyond a reasonable doubt, the Eagles should always be number one on power rankings no matter what, because they are the defending champions and they really didn't get much worse. They're still a very good team. I have no idea what Nick Sirianni is. I've seen the man go to 2 Super Bowls and win one, and I genuinely don't know if Nick Sirianni is even a good coach. But the Eagles are a very well-run organization. Howie Roseman is off his rocker, right? Howie Roseman is absolutely insane with drafting. His free agents are kind of, whatever. But Howie Roseman is Howie Roseman. The Eagles are still really, really good, and there's a lot to like with that team. So this is where my rankings are going into preseason week 2, and I'll check back in a week's time to update this again. I thank you very much for watching. I hope to speak with you all again soon, and goodbye for now.